Okay. What? Hey, Tim.
Hey, Raj.
You're looking sharp as always.
All right.
Oh, I think I won't inflict my face on you.
Do what?
I won't inflict my face on you.
Oh. One of these days, one of these days, Alice.
To the moon. Yeah.
Yeah, to the moon. I need to get my coins out and come visit you.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Just sit down and go through them, and I'm going to have a little canola here.
I'm actually eating string cheese. That's why I closed the thing off.
Yeah, here.
So is it
You don't have to watch.
mostly U.S. or do you have some foreign as well?
A little of both,
Good.
but mostly silver eagles.
Sweet. Sweet, sweet.
Miller's in the meeting.
My goodness, Daniel, that shirt would glow in the dark if you turn the lights out. But it's pretty. Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes,
Yes,
I'm
Mayor.
calling this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the November 23rd, 2020 regular city council meeting. At this point, I'd like to ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Linda Miller,
here,
Darcy Long Curtis. I see her.
She's
Tim
here and
McLaughlin?
she's muted.
Tim
Sorry, I was having
McLaughlin,
trouble.
Rod Runyon,
Here,
Scott Randall,
present.
Mayor Mays.
Present. I would like to now lead everyone in the Pledge of Allegiance. I believe there's a flag in the conference room where Julie Kruger is hanging out, and she's pointing to it as we speak. So please rise and put your hands over your hearts, and I'll lead you in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag
United
the
States.
United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic
for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Item 4 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Miller moves to approve the agenda as presented.
Long Curtis,
It's been moved by Councilor Miller and seconded by Councilor Long Curtis to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion?
No.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Item 5 is presentations and proclamations. And I have a copy of the proclamation. I'd like to read it. Whereas at a general election held in the state of Oregon on November 3rd, 2020, in the city of The Dalles, Oregon, there was submitted to the voters the candidates for office of mayor, councilor position 2, councilor position 4, and councilor position 5. Whereas the city council of the city of The Dalles has canvassed the results of said election and has found as follows. I'd like to ask our city clerk, should I read all the vote totals and everything, or just the bottom line?
Read the whole proclamation, please.
Okay, under mayor, total votes cast, 7,975. That's the total for the whole ballot, not just for mayor. Rich Mays, 4,284. Soleil Kabikoff, 1,836. Jason Garrett Gibson, 703. Write-in, 40. Councilor position number 2, Darcy Long Curtis, 3,224. John Willer, 3,117. Write-in, 38. Councilor position 4, Dan Richardson, 3,998. John Grant, 1,271. Forrest John Urcole, 603. Write-in, 44. Councilor position 5, Rod Runyon, 3,330. Tiffany Prince, 3,220. Write-in, 38. Now therefore, I, Richard A. Mays, Mayor of the City of The Dalles, do hereby proclaim at the general election held on November 3rd, 2020, the following. Number 1, Rich Mays was elected as Mayor of the City of The Dalles. 2, Darcy Long Curtis was elected Councilor position number 2 of the City of The Dalles. 3, Dan Richardson was elected as Councilor position number 4 of the City of The Dalles. And 4, Rod Runyon was elected as Councilor position number 5 of the City of The Dalles, signed and dated at The Dalles, Oregon, this 23rd day of November, 2020. I trust it does not need a vote. City Clerk? We don't need to call for a vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Item number 6 is audience participation. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject which does not later appear on the agenda. Up to 5 minutes per person will be allowed. If a response by the city is requested, the speaker will be referred to the city manager for further action. The issue may appear on a future meeting agenda for city council consideration. I'm not able to see everybody's screen, so if I don't call on you, why don't you just yell out or to make yourself heard. Is there anyone that would like to address the city council for up to 5 minutes?
Mr. Mays, I know that, or Mayor Mays, I know Russ Brown wanted to talk, but he's muted.
Okay. A man who needs no introduction, Mr. Russ Brown. Please do give your name and address, Russ, for the record, and you're muted, so you're going to have to unmute yourself. Are you there? There you
I
go.
just pushed a button that said unmute. Yeah, well, to begin with, I'd like to say that this is a crummy way to hold a public meeting. And then I'd like to say that just to give everybody a little perspective of about what brought me here this evening. Most of 20 years ago, I went back to work for Bonneville Power as a mobile equipment mechanic, which wasn't my total job, but that was how the job was described. And every day I sat down at a computer terminal and I filled out my time card electronically, and my time was charged to whatever vehicle or facility that I worked on. And at the end of the month, I basically did the same thing when I reconciled my government credit card. So there was a record of everything that I put into a piece of equipment, and the bean counters could see it in Vancouver, and we could pull it up if we needed to get some history on a piece of equipment. Fast forward 20 years, and a couple of months ago, I was sitting down at a local coffee shop about 5 in the morning, getting coffee for my daughter and I, and a sweeper, the broom sweeper, went by, and I thought, man, that thing's just leaving a ton of trash behind. And pretty soon it came back on the same side of the street, leaving just near as much trash as it left the first time. And I thought, that machine has never done more than a mediocre job, in my opinion. And it was in the shop a lot. When I was on council, I witnessed the fact that it was there in the shop a lot. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if that machine's really serving the purpose intended, and if the taxpayers' dollars are really getting used appropriately. So I put in a public information request on that vehicle, and I asked what year it was purchased, how much it was purchased for, and how much money had been spent on it in maintenance since its purchase. And a few days later, I received 4 or 5 sheets of paper, and 4 of them probably, I mean, I don't have it in front of me right now, but several pages had nothing more than photocopies of invoices. And 1 page had a paragraph on it. It said that the vehicle was purchased in 2013 for $233,000 and change, and they didn't have the records for the first 3 years of it because they changed how they track stuff. But for the subsequent 4 years, they'd spent over $100,000 on maintenance, but they didn't have any labor costs because they don't track labor. And I thought to myself, it's a terrible way to do business. Everybody else in the world is tracking their costs, and certainly just because the tax dollars are free doesn't mean they shouldn't be accountable. So, you know, it seems to me like that we really should have. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, along with the paragraph that had part of the information that I asked for, I also got a bill for $250. That was 10 hours at $25. So they did track that time, but they're not tracking any labor on anything at Public Works as near as I can tell. And I just really think I believe their computer program is capable. It's just a matter of people doing the input. And I think it's time that the city of the Dalles joined the 21st century. And that's really all I got. If anybody's got any questions, I'll try to answer them. Everybody's got my phone number. You're welcome to call me anytime if for any reason you really give a rip.
Thank you,
Nobody heard
Thank you,
that.
Russ. Can you give
Okay,
your address?
thanks, Rich.
Russ,
Oh, I'm
can you
sorry,
give your
Russ
address?
Brown. Russ Brown, 903 East 14th Street, the Dalles, Oregon.
Thank you. We can either get back to Mr. Brown with a written response, or I know Dave Anderson is present. Dave, is there anything you'd like to comment on as far as the labor costs go and figuring out repairs?
No, not. We'll follow up with Mr. Brown. This is something that we've actually been working towards and have plans this year to update our abilities for the transportation side, the vehicle side, to include labor, because the software that we purchased about, 13 years ago or something didn't have that capability. But now we are enhancing the fixed asset management systems for all of our divisions and transportation scheduled for this year. But we can follow up more directly with Mr. Brown with a more detailed response. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who
Thanks,
would like to
Dave.
speak to the, is there anyone else that would like to speak to the city council? Philip Schwartz,
Yes,
go ahead,
thank you.
sir. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Yeah, Philip Schwartz. My address is 711 East Scenic Drive here in the Dalles. My questions concern where we stand in the governance and the maintenance and the conduct of the sleeping pods for the warming place. We sent a letter to the council earlier asking for some information, and we've had a partial response, but last I heard, we were awaiting publication of a more formal plan of how that area will be governed and cared for. I don't know if that's later on the agenda or not, but I would appreciate having some information about that.
Thank you. That item is not on the agenda. I'd like to ask the city manager if you have any kind of response. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor Mays. I did send out an email just this afternoon that is to the city council. That is a document that goes through the selection of the people who will be placed in the shelter units and all of the requirements and criteria that they need to meet and behavioral requirements and things like that. So I can certainly forward that to Mr. Schwartz as well. And hopefully that will answer his questions.
Thank you, Julie.
I could hardly understand much of that because of some sort of an echo that is, but if you would send that information to me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, she basically said that the information was just sent to the city council today, this afternoon. I haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's there. I just haven't seen it myself, but she said that she would get that right out to you. So thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the city council? I do not hear or see anybody. Last call. I hear somebody. Okay. I don't think there's anybody there. So we'll move on to item number 7, which is the city manager's report. Julie?
Thank you, Mayor. One of my items was to let you know that I sent that shelter information out to you today. And also I sent you an email today with an update on some activities going on at the airport, but I know that Councilor McLaughlin is going to provide you with a report on that, so I will not go into any detail on that. And then just one other item, I have been negotiating with our interim community development director to offer a permanent position. And one of the pieces of that is that the city council is the only one who has the authority to authorize particular compensation. And so I'm asking the council to approve or at least give your consensus that I may offer a $500 per month contribution into a deferred compensation plan as part of that offer.
And I trust you're looking for responses, not tonight, but we'll get back to you on an individual basis. Did I read that right?
No, this would be something that the council would either need to provide me with consensus tonight or an actual motion to authorize me to do that.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion or,
Mayor Mays, this is Counselor Long Curtis.
yes, go ahead, please.
I just had a question. Sorry, Julie, if you sent me an email back, but I'm not looking at my email right now. Is this $6,000 of deferred compensation in addition to the regular salary range that she's already receiving, or is she literally deferring $6,000 of what she would take in salary and putting it into deferred comp?
I did respond to your email, and it was kind of a last minute before I came running in, so I'm sure you haven't had a chance to see it. This is in addition to that salary, and I think I put in that email to Councilor Long Curtis that it's been about 10 years since we've reviewed our department head salaries, and so as part of our budget process next year, the Human Resources Director and I will be working together on changing or proposing changes because we're really out of whack on many positions in that category. But in the meantime, the other issue being that it's very difficult to recruit people who are in the PERS system because we don't have the PERS system, so it would also help offset that. So it would be in addition to the regular salary range.
Does that answer your question, Counselor?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Does anybody else, anybody on the city council have any other questions?
That's Counselor Runyon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just to follow up that I called our city manager with similar questions, and I'm satisfied with the outcome and the reasons for it. And we will look forward to reviewing the step process in the spring.
Thank you, Councilor Runyon. Anybody else? Any questions?
Do we have the money in the budget to compensate this?
I'm not muted. I will take a closer look at that, Councilor McLaughlin, but I believe we do have the money already in the budget based upon the lower salary and people coming and going through that department over the current year. I think we'll be fine.
Thank you.
Anybody else? With that, I will entertain a motion to approve the request of the city manager.
Miller moved to approve the request of the city manager for the $500 a month increase to the economic development position.
This is Randall.
Okay. Go ahead, Scott.
I second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilor Miller and seconded by Councilor Randall to approve the request of the city manager for the interim economic development director. Is there any other discussion or questions? I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote just to make sure that so there's no confusion. City Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Sorry, I was muted. Tim McLaughlin,
Aye.
Scott Randall,
Aye.
Linda Miller,
Aye.
Rod Runyon,
Aye.
Darcy Long Curtis.
Aye.
Thank you very much. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you
Julie,
very much. I'm sorry, were you going to say
Thank-
something?
I was just going to ask you if you had anything else in your report.
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, city attorney report, Mr. Kara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, councilors. No report this evening other than wishing you all a very happy Thanksgiving and stay tuned until next time. Thank you.
Thank you. City council reports. I'm looking at my screen. First one to pop up is Councilor Long Curtis. You have a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So primarily all my activities have really revolved around the homeless shelters and speaking with the city manager about that. I participated in the Unhoused Oregonians Response and Recovery Network for COVID-19 and wildfires. I also participated in ensuring shelters and homeless service providers. I also listened after the fact to the League of Oregon Cities winter shelter call that they had, as well as participating in the COVID-19 subcommittee. I'm the lead on the shelter for the food and shelter subcommittee. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilor Runyon.
Not at this time, no.
Councilor McLaughlin.
I have three things from the airport to report that the leases from those people that are renting hangars have been updated, and they are working to get them into a database so that they can have current billing. So they're working really hard to get that updated and current. Let's see, I met the water district agreement is still pending and moving forward with the help of our city attorney and in conjunction with Klickitat County attorney. So that is continuing to move forward, and that is to get water rights for the well that's on city property. On Wednesday, the airport broke all-time fuel sale record of 204,166 gallons. That's pretty impressive. And also they're working to get C-130 aircraft to come in from the military and land and refuel. So things are going well at the airport. Urban planning will be rescheduled for December. I want to do a shout out for the new owner of Skylink Fiber. Crystal is a veteran serving. She was serving in Afghanistan with the U.S. Air Force. Crystal donated the cost of the access point and Wi-Fi service for the pallet homes. Welcome to the Dalles, Crystal. Thank you for your service to our country. The Wi-Fi camera was installed today and is working. Thanks very much to Terry and Jerry from the city maintenance crew. You are very appreciated, and thank you very much for your help. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On November 18th, the Historic Landmarks Commission had a public hearing to discuss the application requesting approval to provide wireless backhaul for cellular services in the Dalles area by installing up to 3 small microwave wireless antennas on the roof of Building 1 of the Columbia Gorge Community College. The request was approved with conditions, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Miller.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Under my report, I have attended several meetings related to my memo to the City Council to form a group to tackle the homeless issue. I also participated in the community cleanup list last Saturday. And this morning I sat in on a conference call with the League of Oregon Cities and the governor's office related to the COVID freeze, if you will, that's in effect until December the 2nd. And I learned that the governor's office is seriously considering changing effective December 3rd, going on a county by county basis. They have 4 categories of counties. One that are at extreme risk, which are the the usual highly populated counties like Multnomah County and Clackamas and Washington County. Then what they call the next step up would be a high risk county. And then they have a moderate risk county and then a lower risk county. So all counties in Oregon would be classified under one of those 4. And each of those 4 have different degrees of restrictions, if you will, for virtually every segment of society that you can think of. And I have been sent a copy, just got late this afternoon, a copy of a draft, which they're hesitant to put out because it's just a draft at this point, but they hope to get more input from other elected officials and mayors such as myself before they put these rules into effect, again, effective after the so-called freeze is up. And that concludes my report. Item 10 is the consent agenda. Items of a routine and non-controversial nature are placed on the consent agenda to allow the city council to spend its time and energy on the important items and issues. Any councilor may request an item be pulled from the consent agenda and be considered separately. Items pulled from the consent agenda will be placed on the agenda at the end of the action items section. Tonight, we only have one item on the consent agenda, and that is the approval of the November 9th city council minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Randall. I have moved to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Miller,
Thank you.
second.
It's been moved by Councilor Randall and seconded by Councilor Miller to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, McLaughlin.
Okay, I understand that's unanimous. Very good. Thank you very much. Move on to item 11A, which is a public hearing to accept the public comment on closeout of a community development block grant project supporting home repairs for qualified families. The staff report was presented by our interim economic development director, so I trust that she will be giving the staff report. Is that correct?
Yep, Mayor Mays, yes, that's correct. I'm happy to get started now if you'd like. Mayor Mays and members of council, I want to introduce our main speaker tonight, Dave Peters, who's from Columbia Cascade Housing. We have a partnership with this organization they do a lot of the heavy lifting on the CDBG grant program, and they are prepared tonight to provide the final report as we approach getting ready to close out this particular funding cycle for the home repair program here in the 3-county area. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave Peters.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Again, this is Dave Peters. Can you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I will basically just go over the report. I know you were all here when I did the last public notice for the program we actually have applied for. We will find out in December. I had to read that one in word for word. Luckily, I don't have to do that tonight, but I would like to go over some of the numbers. You've seen them, but I'd like to repeat some of the numbers. So we did help 24 homes total with this program. And you can see the different numbers. We assisted 55 people total. I think a pretty impressive statistic is that 30% of those people were less than 30% of the area median income, which is it varies for family size. So I can't just throw out one number, but that is 30% of the area median income is a very low income level. These people, own homes for however they were able to, but they would not have been able to get these repairs done without this program. That is actually basically a requirement of the program. And then another, again, there's just other percentages for the different AMIs. It gets a little confusing with all of the percentages in there, but just rest assured that a lot of this money went to people that would have absolutely had no other way to make these repairs. Another thing that kind of stands out is that 12 of the homes were in the Dalles. So you are doing, besides just helping people in general in the 3 counties, or excuse me, in the 2 counties in Oregon, Hood River and Wasco, which this program covers. 12 of them were in the Dalles, and then the rest were spread out throughout the different cities and county in Hood River. I would like to make sure you are aware that this is separate from, as I mentioned, we just had a public hearing not that long ago. I think it was May that we had it. And that application, we will find out the results of that for the new, hopefully, repair program in December. That one will be different in that it's going to be a larger amount, and we hope to be successful with that. I will tell you that I would hopefully kind of notify you if we aren't successful in that application. Another application is going to be available in early next year. April through June is the application cycle. But I am here to answer questions about this current program. We have closed out all the homes. We've helped those homes, and we've paid off all the payments. So right now, Alice and I have some paperwork that needs to be done, some final reporting, but all the homes have been repaired and all the contractors have been paid so far. So were there any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Peters or Ms. Cannon?
Miller, I don't have any questions, but I'd like to say I've been on the council for 8 years, and this is the most complete report I've seen for these grants. This is wonderful, and I appreciate the extent of the reporting that you've done here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We couldn't have done it literally without you, so I appreciate the city stepping forward to do this.
Any other questions for the 2 of them? I have one. You used up the entire $400,000, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Was anybody turned away?
Yes.
Because-
I mean, I don't know the exact number. We had some people that just didn't respond to, our inquiries to try to get them off the wait list. We had some people that, I'm trying to think, age, we had, this one was grant, so we were able to assist people in mobile homes. I know we had at least a couple that were older than what HUD allows. They don't let us work on homes that are July of 1977. So there was a few people that were turned away. We do have a wait list of about 60 names, and those are going to be, at least a fair number of them will be helped with the next program. We hope to assist between 30 and 35 people with our next program.
Oh, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, at this portion of the meeting, I'd like to open it up for any public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on the CBDG program? Anybody? Okay, I don't see any takers. So there's no public comment, and we've had the staff report. I trust that there's no vote that needs to be taken on anything. Is that correct?
That's correct,
Staff?
Mayor. That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, last call for any public comment. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Peters, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Cannon, for your report as well. Moving on to action to item 12A, which is the Dalles disposal rate increase request. This also has a public input segment to it, but first I'd like to hear from the staff for a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor Mays. Also, I'd like to note that Jim Winterbottom is in attendance tonight to answer any specific questions that you have about this request. This is a pretty typical annual request, but the amount is quite small this year at 1.45%. I put my glasses on. Now I can see. So this is a request to consider 1.45% rate increase for solid waste and recycling services, which would be effective January 1st. And that's pretty typical that we hear it in the late fall and then we implement it in January. The operational costs include items such as healthcare, fleet maintenance, fuel, and container costs. And also takes into consideration that the landfill is anticipating an increase in their gate rate and their pass-through household hazardous waste tax. So it kind of just offsets that as well. And our ordinance for this type of franchise requires that the council review the rates charged by the franchises, and you have to determine if the rates are reasonable and just and adequate for them to provide the services. So that's what this request is for. And we have included behind the resolution tonight the letter that we received and the proposed rate schedule. So Jim can answer any questions that you may have about that. And the staff recommendation is to adopt resolution number 20-027. That concludes the staff report. Jim and I will be happy to answer any questions you have.
Mr. Winterbottom, do you have any comments before we move to the question period?
No, not really, Mr. Mayor. Julie did a good job of outlining it. Thanks for the time to be on the agenda tonight. I appreciate that from you and the council. We do try to remain sensitive to the ratepayers. We know any increase has an impact. And the 1.45% is 85% of the West Coast CPI of 1.71%. And we just mirror what the landfill has already been granted is their increase this year. A customer with a 32-gallon can here in town is going to see an increase of 27 cents a month, or less than 7 cents a pickup. If a customer has the larger roll cart on wheels, they're going to see an increase of 39 cents a month, or 9 cents per pickup. And a traditional dumpster, if you will, located behind a restaurant or a convenience mart, picked up once a week, is going to see an increase of $1.44 per month, or 33 cents per pickup. And if there are any questions, I'd definitely field those for you tonight.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either Julie or Mr. Winterbottom? I do have one question. How's your hiring and staffing going, especially in light of what's been happening, with COVID-related issues? And are you able to still fill positions?
It's been difficult. We've had 2 open driver positions since May. Recently, we just got a couple applicants that are now going to come on board. One of them starts this Wednesday, the 25th, and the next one starts November 30th. But it's been tough, and we still have openings both in our Hood River and Carson location to obtain drivers.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question for Mr. Winterbottom? With that, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on the proposed rate increase? Anybody? Okay, I don't hear or see anyone raising their hand, so I'll assume that there was no public comment. With that, and since there's no other questions,
Mr. Mayor, this is Miller, and as always, every year I refrain from voting because I also work for the company that the Dallas Disposal is part of.
Councilor Miller will be abstaining from this vote. Otherwise, entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I can take a stab at this. I move to adopt resolution number 20-027, approving a rate increase averaging approximately 1.45%, resulting from increased operational and disposable fee costs incurred by the Dalles Disposal Service effective January 1st, 2021.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there a second?
This Runyon, I'll second it.
It's been moved by Counselor McLaughlin and seconded by Counselor Runyon to approve the resolution for a rate increase for the Dallas Disposal Service. Is there any other discussion?
One quick comment. In the 10 years I've been on council, I found that the disposal center has been very frugal in their rate increases and very responsive to the community. So I've always supported. I don't like to see rate increases, but in this case, it seems justifiable.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to add a comment. This is Councilor Runyon. I'm sure it's just my house, but Mr. Winterbottom, you have a really good crew, and I really appreciate the fact that they take the time in their busy schedule they have to, to smile and wave, and it's appreciated out there by the public. I'm very sure.
And I also note that the crew is very friendly, and I've gotten to know them over the years, and it's very appreciated.
Thanks. I'll definitely share that with the guys.
Yes.
I would concur with all those comments as well. I found that your service and employees are really good. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the resolution. Could I ask the city clerk to please call the roll?
You're muted, city clerk.
Okay, it said I wasn't. Okay. Rod Runyon,
Aye.
Tim McLaughlin,
Aye.
Darcy Long Curtis,
Aye.
Scott Randall,
Aye.
and Miller abstains.
Thank you all very much. And thank you, Mr. Winterbottom, for attending our meeting.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is item 12B, a resolution accepting a grant for the purpose of providing COVID-19 Emergency Business Assistance Fund. Is this going to be our finance director, I believe?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Angie Wilson, please go ahead.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of City Council. You have before you my budget resolution 20-029, authorizing a resolution accepting and appropriating a grant for the purpose of providing COVID-19 Emergency Business Assistance Fund that provides grants to individual businesses affected by the COVID-19 epidemic. The resolution will increase the City Council department budget by $200,000 to receive appropriations, which will then be used for the grant for local businesses that were affected by COVID-19.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Ms. Wilson? This was discussed somewhat in our budget, 2020-21 budget, was it not?
This grant was not budgeted. This was something that came before us after the budget was completed, and it was brought up into, the city manager brought this up in an earlier meeting.
This was the Business Oregon grant match that we had a difficult time getting it out to the businesses because of all the criteria that came attached with it. And so we weren't able to use it all, which the finance director will talk about in her next staff report. But we have to take it in before we can give back the part that we didn't use.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I hear a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to adopt resolution number 20-029, authorizing a resolution accepting and appropriating a grant in the amount of $200,000 in the City Council Department and out of the general fund for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
This is Randall.
Miller second.
I believe Council Randall spoke up first, so Councilor Long Curtis moved and Council Randall seconded the motion to approve the resolution. Is there any more discussion or questions? Okay, I guess it'd probably be faster to just ask. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
McLaughlin, aye.
Miller, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Item 12C is another resolution authorizing the transfers of the budgeted amounts between categories. Ms. Wilson.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, you have the budget, the agenda staff report for resolution 20-030. This is authorizing transfers of the budget amounts between categories of the general fund adopted budget. Due to receiving the $200,000 for the Business Oregon grant, we had 45 days to spend that money, and then what money was not spent had to be given back to the Oregon Business grant. We have $171,326 that needs to be sent back to Oregon, and so I'm requesting that we add the line item into the special payments department so we can pay that money back. We had 18 approved applications and 20 that were denied. In a total, we gave out $57,347.87 in grant, which 50% of that was paid by the City of the Dalles, which was $28,674. There was a lot of program requirements for this grant, which enabled a lot of businesses to actually receive revenue for this. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, I have one. Why were 20 businesses denied? What was the date?
I was not running the actual grant. That was something that MCED was running the grant for, but there was several, there was a lot of like how many staffing you had. You couldn't have received any other grants for the year. There was just a lot of program requirements that I'm not exactly sure why all of the requirements of why each business didn't get allowed that, because I didn't manage the grant.
Councilor McLaughlin, quite a bit of the denial was, as the finance director stated, tied to if people got the federal grants for the PPP, and I can't remember what the other one was called. So if people had already received grants from that, any request that they submitted through this program was offset by what they had already received. So it was very difficult with the criteria that the state attached to this grant process or this round of grants for us to get that money out the door. So that is why the amount was so small on this one. I understand the current round that's just going through MCED, but not through the city. They've loosened up that criteria so people will be able to have an opportunity to get some more funding.
Thank you, Julie. Any other questions? With that, I'll ask for a motion to approve this resolution.
This is Randall. I move to adopt resolution number 20-030, a resolution authorizing transfers of budgeted amounts into categories of the City of the Dalles adopted budget, making appropriations and authorizing expenditures for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there a second?
I can second that.
It's been moved by Counselor Randall and seconded by Counselor McLaughlin to approve the resolution. Is there any more discussion or questions? All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The City of the Dalles will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192-660-2H. to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave this meeting. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back. I'd like to remind the city council, just like the last time, there is a separate Zoom login for the executive session and then another separate one to return into our open session. So with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting into executive session. Thank you.